My name is Jim and I was retired. Have we reached the end of the road for I-bonds in 2023? If you purchase an I-bond before the end of April, you'll earn 6.89% for the first 6 months. But then what? If the inflation factor drops to zero, these bonds will end up earning about 3.5% for the year. That's less than some bank CDs. In this video, I'm going to explore my decision and my plan to sell my I-bonds in 2023. Stay tuned. Let's review the basics and why I-bonds have been so popular in the last few years. The I stands for inflation, and the Treasury Direct's Series I bond earns a fixed rate for the life of the 30-year savings bond, plus an inflation factor that changes every 6 months. That inflation factor is based on changes to the Consumer Price Index for urban workers. If you buy an I-bond in January, for instance, you will earn a 6.89% as the composite rate for the first 6 months of your I-bond, including a 0.4% fixed rate. Then you earn a new composite rate in July based on the changes in the Consumer Price Index for Urban Workers Index from September 2022 to March 2023. That rate will be announced on May 1st, but in about April, we'll know what that rate is likely to be. But that bond rate, that composite rate, applies to your bond at its next 6-month interval, beginning in July. The inflation factor is set by the Treasury Department each May and November, and the November inflation factor will be based on changes in the CPI-U from March to September, just like the May factor is determined by the change between September and March. Now, if you have purchased I-bonds in 2021 or earlier in 2022, the fixed rate was 0, and the current inflation factor of 6.48% means that's what you're earning during your 6-month interval for that rate. Here's the actual formula for determining the interest rate. It's the composite rate equals the fixed rate plus 2 times the semi-annual inflation rate plus the fixed rate times the semi-annual inflation rate. Sounds easy, right? Here's an example. So for new bonds, the composite rate is equal to 0.04, that's the fixed rate of 0.4%, plus 2 times 0.0648, the inflation factor, plus 0.04 times the inflation factor, and that gives you 6.89%. Older bonds, the composite rate is equal to 0 plus 2 times the inflation factor of 0.0648 plus 0 times that inflation factor. And that calculation gives you the current composite rate of 6.48% for those older bonds. So I built this spreadsheet to track the non-adjusted CPI-U readings monthly so I can make an educated guess on what the rate will be in May. Right now, based on the CPI-U numbers from September through December, that yields a composite rate of 0.4% for the second 6 months of an I-bond. But that assumes that this rate here, the fixed rate, remains the same. The Treasury Department sets this rate separately from the CPI-U readings, and there's no way of knowing whether that's going to be higher or lower. But what do I do with the I-bonds that my wife and I purchased in 2021 and 2022 and the gift bonds that we purchased for each other in 2022 to present in 2023. All of those have a fixed rate of 0. Well, what I do with them will depend on the calendar and the math. Follow along. We purchased two $10,000 bonds in December 2021, and these bonds earned 7.12% for the first 6 months and then 9.62 for the next 6 months. And they are currently earning the 6.48%, and they will have that running through May. And then they'll earn 0 if my calculations are correct. Because all of these bonds that we purchased in 2021 and 22 are within their first 5 years, I will wait until the interest that I've earned shows up in my account. So keep in mind that the Treasury Direct will always show you what you are entitled to receive, reflecting that 3-month penalty imposed during the first 5 years. And if you want to be sure to capture all of the interest that you've earned and that 3 months are the 0 interest rates that begin in June, then I'm going to wait until September to redeem these bonds. Likewise, my wife and I purchased 2 more bonds in March of 2022, and these bonds have 2 more months of 9.62% interest before they begin their 6-month periods of earning 6.48%. So I will wait for 3 months of 0 interest there, and then I'll redeem them in December 2023. Now, my wife and I also purchased gift bonds for each other since we used up our 2022 allotment of $10,000 per tax ID. And we put these in our gift boxes to be presented in a future year because we had already purchased our 2022 bonds directly. You cannot receive a gift if you've already purchased your limit. Bonds that you purchase or receive as gifts count towards your limit. So we purchased our first of our 2 gifts in April 2022 with $5,000 gifts, and here's what happened to those bonds. Now, it's important to remember that gifts in your gift box continue to earn interest while you wait to present them to the recipient. So the bonds are currently earning 9.62% through March of this year, and then they will earn 6.48% through September. By December, we'll have 3 months of 0 interest to surrender when we redeem these bonds after we present them to each other. We purchased 2 more $5,000 gift bonds in September 22 when I was sure that the 2023 bonds would not offer better rates. This was our shot at grabbing the last of the nearly best rates in iBond history. These bonds will finish up earning 9.62% by the end of February and then have 6 months of 6.48% through August. So by December, we will have 3 months of 0 interest on these bonds too, and we'll be ready to redeem those. Now, here's a wrinkle in my plan. Presenting both of these gifts presented to me in 23 will mean that I will not have an opportunity to buy any bonds in 2023 with a fixed rate of 0.4%. I have 3 older iBonds in my Treasury Direct account, including a 2033 iBond purchased in April 2003, when the fixed rate was 1.6%. That bond is currently earning 11.3% through March, when the rate will adjust to the next rate of 8.13% for the next 6 months. I'm not planning to do anything with this bond this year unless I need the money. Those are good fixed rates that I'm going to hold on to. I have 2 smaller I bonds with fixed rates of 0.3%. This February 2040 I bond currently earns 9.33%, but drops to 6.79% for its next 6-month interval. This April 2040 I bond, purchased again in April 2010, also earns the 9.33% through the end of March, and then it will earn 6.79% for its next 6-month period through September. Since a new I bond earns a fixed rate of 0.4%, does it make any sense to redeem these two bonds and replace them with new I bonds? But doing so will use up $5,000 of my $10,000 limit. I could ask Marie to wait and present one of the gifts in 2024. Since these I bonds are all past their 5-year penalty phase, the current value shown in the Treasury Direct account will be the full redemption value. I will not need to wait an additional 3 months for the rates. As soon as the rate drops close to zero, I could sell them. But I'm not sure I want to replace them with new I bonds yet. And if I do, I may decide to replace in April and May of this year, one with a fixed rate of 0.4% in April, and then wait to see if the new rate in May is any better. Or will I need to wait until November for a higher fixed rate? These are all decisions that I have to think about when I consider my portion of my I bonds. Do I leave room to replace these two bonds for a better fixed rate? I'll also need to consider the interest income received as I redeem bonds. And I'll need to factor what that does to my modified adjusted gross income. And that's an important number for a couple more years as we purchase on the ACA marketplace for Marie's healthcare coverage. So I'll need to consider all those factors on when I actually redeem the bonds, and also when we present the gifts to each other. And it could be that we present them all in 2023, or as I said before, I may defer receiving a gift until 2024 in my case. It's still too early to tell. But since these interest periods all push towards the second half of 2023, I'm going to leave that go for another video. I'll take a moment to ask you please to like and subscribe to this channel if you like topics from a DIY retiree forced into early retirement. That's why I call this channel I Was Retired. I'll conclude with my standard warning. I am not a financial planner. I have no initials after my name. So take these as entertaining ideas from one educated consumer to another. Always do your own due diligence and seek out a professional if you need one. See you next time.